My name's Teresa, and I'm going to be refuting the claim that Jocelyn proposed, which is plastic bottles have a significant negative effect on the environment. She used three secondary claims. The first one is that extensive production of plastic bottles is polluting oceans. The second one is extensive production of plastic bottles is significantly polluting landfills. And the third one is the extensive production of plastic bottles is significantly polluting the environment. Sorry, I read those out of order. Let me repeat these. The first one was the extensive production of plastic bottles is polluting oceans. The second one is the extensive production of plastic bottles has a negative chemical effect on the environment. And the third one is the extensive production of plastic bottles is significantly polluting landfills. My refutation to this claim is that plastic bottles do not have a significant impact on the environment, and production is not the issue, which she mentioned in all three secondary claims. So going to her first secondary claim, that extensive production of plastic bottles is polluting oceans. She continues on to say, according to the Natural Resources Defense Council, around 80% of marine litter originates on land, and most of that is plastic. Now, that does not say anything about plastic bottles. There are many things that have plastic in it that are not bottles. In fact, all of Jocelyn's evidence for a secondary claim is just about plastic particles harming the ocean, not water bottles in particular. I did some researching, and according to Ban the Bottle, Americans used 50 billion plastic water bottles last year. The US recycling rate for plastic is 23%, which means 38 billion plastic bottles were wasted. Comparing that to plastic bags, according to TakePart.com, approximately 380 billion plastic bags are used in the US every year. Using the same recycling rate of 23%, that means around 292 billion plastic bags were wasted, which is way more than 38 billion water bottles being wasted. Okay, according to her secondary claim, she says the extensive production of plastic bottles has a negative chemical effect on the environment. Again, production is not the issue. According to the International Bottled Water Association, from source to finished product, a multi-barrier approach helps prevent possible harmful contamination to the finished product, as well as storage, production, and transportation equipment. Measures in a multi-barrier approach may include one or more of the following: source protection, source monitoring, reverse osmosis distillation, microfiltration, carbon filtration, ozonation, and ultraviolet light. These steps in the multi-barrier system are effective in safeguarding bottled water from microbiological and other contamination. IBWA, as mentioned before, also says that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, regulates the safety and quality of bottled water just like the EPA for tap water. So they pay very close attention to any leakage of the production of plastic bottles to the environment. She also goes on to say, according to the Center for Biological Diversity, as plastic debris float in seawater, it absorbs dangerous pollutants like PCBs, DDTs, and PAH. Besides having nothing to do with the production of plastic bottles, it is not the plastic itself that is a pollutant. It is the PCBs, the DDTs, and the PAH, which her argument lacked evidence to tell you what those are. The toxic chemicals in the environment attached to these pieces of plastic, not the plastic itself is toxic. The toxic waste is the source of the problem, not the plastic bottle. She also mentions toxic chemicals escape from the manufacturing process and damage workers in the plastics industry, communities living near plastics manufacturing plants, and global environment. But she lacks to have any examples or data on this. She does not have any proof of anyone getting sick from this or complaints by workers. In her third secondary claim, she says extensive production of plastic bottles is significantly polluting landfills. She says plastic bottles is estimated to use 8% of yearly global oil production, embody energy from fossil fuels, but a huge waste of valuable research. But the fact is that they can be used to produce energy. The fact that they can be used to produce energy does not mean that they have any negative effect on the environment. Therefore, this point is not relevant to her main claim. In conclusion, Jocelyn has very strong points on plastic having a negative effect on the environment, but does not convince me that the production of plastic bottles are the leading cause. Thank you.
Okay. I knew you were here somewhere. All right, well, sometimes it sounds like you're splitting a hair here. It's saying, well, it's not the plastic bottles, it's the plastic itself that creates the problem. And I understand the position that you're taking here, because there's, in essence, if plastic gets into the environment, could there be problems with it? Yes, there could be. The question is it getting into the environment as a result of plastic bottles or some other thing? I thought you had a pretty reasonable explanation on that when you do all that information about the plastic bags and stuff like that, especially when you're talking about the oceans. Look, there's plenty of plastic in the ocean. It comes from all kinds of sources. There's no, the argument that you're making is that there's no specific information that identifies plastic bottles as a source of a problem here, and the truth is that it's much more likely that it's a lot of other things that are contributing to this. I can't very well say that plastic is was safe to be disposed of in the ocean, but I can tell you that the advocate has not presented proof that it's plastic bottles that are creating this particular problem, and we have reason to believe that other things are more responsible. That's basically that whole first point. So like I said, you're parsing it a little bit, but it's a reasonable press on that, especially the way the claim was presented. On the second point, I think that there's a question as to what the advocate's original argument is. Is it the process and is it the plastic in the environment that's causing all of these problems, or is it the production of the bottles that's causing all the problems? Well, the main proposition does say bottles, right? So I think that that's what you come back to and say, unless the advocate's evidence specifies that these are plastic bottles here, that, all of this stuff is tangential to the point. You're using a set of evidence that you can't make an inference from on this. We talked about this. This is, one of those fallacies of reasoning where you're using the wrong data in order to create a generalization. And that's problematic, and that's the way you should go about that. The idea that the plastic bottles, for instance, that the stuff clings to the plastic in the ocean, that's an interesting one too, that there are toxins, and all the toxins that she cites, well, they are not plastics themselves. They are toxins in the environment. DDT is a pesticide, for instance. The fact that it clings to plastic, I don't want to say that suddenly makes plastic bottles our heroes, because at least now it's collecting all the bad stuff there, and if we collect the bottles, then we'll get the bad stuff out of the water. But that's, about as close as you can get to making an argument about it. Nobody, And by the way, what is the risk for all of this to anybody or anything? I'm still not sure that the advocate presented any argument about that, and that's, if they did, you've ignored that, and if they didn't, you should be highlighting that. All right, and like you did on the last point, or excuse me, not the last point, but the last point on this particular issue, and that is in the industry, there's no data that says that anybody's been harmed on this. I don't know what you're saying on that last point on the landfills. It didn't make any sense to me. The argument that you're making, you've got, that the advocate says 8% of the fossil fuels are used to make plastic bottles, and then you said something else. I'm going, well, and how does any of this affect the landfills? That's just not clear here. All right, thank you.